Attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only...
Good afternoon and welcome to NUFC Matters. It's the worldwide show where we look back on the last 7 days at Newcastle United and more importantly look back at another win and another 3 points for Steve Bruce and the lads. Almiron, of course, opening the scoring very early on with a wonderful strike after good work from Callum Wilson and Joe Linton. Yes, you heard that right, Joe Linton. And then a bullet header, no other way of describing it, from the returning Dwight Gayle to secure all 3 points against the strugglers West Brom. Maybe it's a bittersweet goal for Dwight Gayle, which we didn't really mention on the live coverage yesterday, and the fact that he spent a lot of time there in recent years and probably built up a lot of friendships. So to get that winner and hammer another nail in the proverbial coffin for West Brom probably did have a bittersweet moment. And I must admit, I haven't double checked his celebration, but I think it was quite muted, and that is probably the reason why. So Daz, good afternoon, and yes, another 3 points for Bruce. We're going at the wrong end of the table as far as we're all concerned. We all thought would be trouble in the relegation places, but we're chasing Europe, Daz.
Yeah, after 11 games, let's get very excited and look forward to Champions League next year. Let's be realistic. We know what's to come. If back in our Bruce out show, we had 5 games to look at. I set Mr. Bruce Aloid 10 points out of 15. Okay, the Villa game didn't go ahead, so I've altered it. I'm now expecting 9 points out of 12 from him. That's what he has to reach. He's doing really well, and especially in the circumstances as well with the COVID and players coming back and still out and not knowing where everybody is. It must have been difficult, so we have to give him some credit. But he's got 6 from 6 for me, and I'm happy with that. And why wouldn't I be? And difficult games ahead with difficult in Leeds will be a stronger outfit. Fulham, let's see what they produce. But then the big ones we have plenty of tough games coming out with Christmas. What I call it a free hit with the likes of City and Liverpool. We need to be good to get a few more points on the board, and then we won't have to look over our shoulder as much going into the new year.
Who impressed you yesterday, Daz?
Yeah, for me, I didn't get to make the match day live, but yeah, for me, the likes of Hayden, who came back from COVID and was playing in centre back, and Miggy got the goal early. He had a few more runs and attacks and stuff. They stood out for me, I think. Nice to see Gayle coming back from injury and getting a goal. He was busting to get a goal. He had the earlier header before that. That looked like that was going in. You could as soon as he came on the pitch, you thought, okay, if a goal comes here, it's going to come from Gayle. He was just wanted. I just hope he can keep continuing and not get injured, because when he's not injured, he does produce the business for us. So he's a quality player to have around. It's just that whole injury thing for Gayle.
Yeah, it was good to see him back on the pitch though, and banging in the goals. So yes, good result, and Newcastle fans were smiling again last night. Al Walid, good to see Newcastle get another 3 points in the bag.
First of all, congratulations to all Newcastle fans. The thing is that I'm a fan, and as a fan, it's so hard for me. I'm not accepting when I see my stronger team on the field defense most of the game. As a fan, when I know really my team is stronger, so I become very angry when I see my team, the stronger team, is making defense all the time. Why we shouldn't play better than this? if we are playing to a team it's below us in the level of performance. If we play last night against, let's say, Wolverhampton, Arsenal, Chelsea, I will accept the way we play. But against someone just came from Championship, play this way, make you angry. And even if we steal a win in last minutes, but I know, and in this they are calculating the points, but we get lucky that we score a goal in last 5 minutes. But it's a 3 point after all.
Yeah, Chippers agrees, good result, but yet again the performance left a lot to be desired. Pete, good afternoon, mate. Welcome to the show. And yeah, look, 3 points yesterday. We'll watch the match together. From my perspective, I've got to agree with Alwaleed. I think that our match coverage shows it. You know, the first half, I think we were all happy. Newcastle were at least giving it a go, but then something happened at half time where Steve Bruce got them in and seemed to get the lads all on a bit of a downer. Now, I've listened to both managers and I've obviously listened to some of the pundits since yesterday. Was it down to the substitutions? West Brom's substitutions were positive at half time. They obviously brought on 2 attacking options. Newcastle didn't make the changes until a bit later, and then obviously the substitutes they brought on changed the game. I mean, has your opinion changed from yesterday?
Not really. I think when you said something must have happened in the changing rooms at half time with Steve Bruce and the players, I think it's the absolute opposite. I don't think anything happened, and I think that's why the players came out in the second half and played the way they did, because I think we were talking about it at half time, and the one thing we said is right, we just made it to half time without conceding the goal. Bruce needs to get them confident and get them up and ready and get them attacking, and we came out and we did the complete opposite. And that says to me that Bruce hasn't said anything of any note to get them ready for the second half, or if he has, the players aren't listening, which is even more worrying. So it's one or the other. But the way they came out in the second half was a team that was purely sitting back and hoping that we were going to take the 1-0. And with West Brom had nothing to lose whatsoever in this game. They're fighting for every point, for every game. You expected them to come out, and actually their half-time changes, it gave them that positivity. They put an extra guy up top in Charlie Austin who can get a goal. They made those positive changes. They were more attack-minded because we gave them that confidence, and that we didn't punish them in the first half. And then we kept giving them more and more possession, and they kept getting more and more chances. At some point, they were going to take it, and they did. I have to say, you know, we've gone on about Bruce and his subs making them too late. He made them early this time, and I think it helped. And I think it helped bed the players in that came on off the bench and get them settled into a game. It's so difficult coming on as a substitute. It takes you 10 or 15 minutes just to get you find your feet and get into the flow of the game, and that helped. And it helped the likes of Murphy and Gayle to come on and really sort of make an impact in the game, and they did. You know, it was the one positive Bruce was saying about Dwight Gayle, that he's been chomping at the bit in training and looked really, really sharp. I'm not sure whether to believe Steve Bruce when he makes comments like that, because, you know, he makes comments like that all the time, and it kind of goes over your head because most of the time he's talking a load of rubbish. But he came on and he looked really sharp. And look, Steve, we talked about it in the panel. We talked about how the link up between Joelinton and Wilson was good at Palace. For me, in that 15-20 minutes, Gayle and Wilson looked better. They had more of an understanding, and I'm really, really sort of interested to see how that sort of develops, providing that Gayle stays fit. But look, we're always going to take the 3 points no matter how it comes. But we know with the players that we've got in the squad that we should be performing better. And I think it's only right as fans of this club, we have a right to have an opinion. The people in the media, the pundits, you know, they make out that we are not allowed to have a say. We are allowed to have a say as fans, and we are allowed to demand better football from our club and our players, and with the players we've got in the squad, there is no reason why we should be putting teams like West Brom to the sword by 2 or 3 goals.
Yeah, I've got to agree on that. Pete, as always, eloquently made your point. Martin, do you agree with Pete?
I do. I think he's 100% right. I think, I think Chris Sutton, and I know there's a huge part that he just, he likes to goad Newcastle fans. And I don't normally respond, but I did yesterday. I just said his punditry was lazy and half-assed, which I thought it was. He made comment about, Bruce deserves some credit. I think, we need to be upfront and honest here, which is Bruce has been extremely lucky. He's not had good game management. Yesterday, probably for the first 15 minutes, we were okay. As a set of pundits and panelists ourselves, we got to half time on the show yesterday and we said, we're okay. Joe Linton did okay. First 15 minutes, Miggy took his goal well. The setup play was good. The ball from Lewis, the ball in from Joe Linton, no complaints. But for probably 30 minutes of that first half, we were nowhere near the game. We, as Pete said, we were giving West Brom way too much ball. We didn't seem to have a secondary on how to get further forward. We were sending wayward passes. I made a comment on Twitter yesterday that we had absolutely no legs in the middle of the park. Shelvey and Longstaff, for me, offered absolutely nothing in the middle of the field. Every time we did start to break forward, we had our 2 forwards further up the pitch and our midfielders were 50 yards behind. So there's no ability to be able to link up that play. And I made comment on the chat yesterday that, when I looked at the opposing team, when I looked at West Brom for that 30, 35 minutes of the first half, they started to come back into the game. Conor Gallagher in the middle of the pitch for West Brom, in my opinion, was outstanding for them. He was box to box. He was in the middle. He was picking up ball. He was breaking his neck to get into the final third. Neither of our midfielders did that. Not one of them made an attempt to break into that ball. I mean, we had one attempt where Wilson was on the right-hand side, crossing the ball into the box to nobody. And he's kind of holding the arms out to say, where is everybody? When the cameras pan back, Shelvey's 50 yards back, standing with his hands on his hips. We have a severe problem in midfield. I would have loved to have seen Bruce bring Matty Langstaff on for a while yesterday. I don't know why he didn't bring him on. I know, the feeling on the panel is that, Bruce, Shelvey is one of Bruce's favourites, so he's never going to sub him. He gives him the captain's armband. I would have preferred to see Richie as captain yesterday. I think Shelvey is just offering absolutely nothing to us at the moment. And I think people that sit and look at that game objectively yesterday and sit there and say that they thought the midfield was good and that Longstaff and Shelvey are a good partnership, I'm sorry, but you weren't watching the same game that we watched yesterday afternoon because our midfield was woeful. I think the 2 subs, when we did make subs, Gayle coming on, I think, I agree with Pete. I'd be interested to see the Gayle and Wilson partnership maybe blossom a little bit because I think, there could be an understanding there. Gayle is wily and experienced and knows where to put those balls, knows where to make a run. So he I would think he knows where Wilson is going to make a run. So I think that's one to possibly watch. But again, if we don't service the strikers, we're not going to score goals. And barring the ball yesterday from Murphy, which was an absolute belter of a ball, one that you go back to some Newcastle goals. If that was a Keith Gillespie or, a ball in from Richie to Rondon or whatever with bullet headers like that, it was a great ball and it was a great goal. But other than that, our midfield did not give service to our 2 strikers, in my opinion. And Wilson was having to come deeper. We played the game. We got the second goal. I did enjoy the last kind of 5-6 minutes when we did get the 6 minutes injury time. I thought Wilson's shithousery was spot on, even to the point he gave one of their players a kick in the Achilles and took a yellow. We've probably not had a striker like that in a while. That was, it was Shearer-esque, taking the ball into the corner, trying to keep a hold of it. 2 West Brom defenders around him, booting it off them. I thought his play as a striker, albeit he didn't score, I thought he had a really, really good game. He's just top class. So, look, 3 points, as Pete said. I think the look Brucey's luck will run out at some point. I think Leeds will be a completely different game because they play front foot attacking football. I think if we play like we did for the 35 minutes and the first 20 of the second half yesterday, I think Leeds will give us a run for our money. But we need to go at it. But as Pete said, like likes of West Brom, second bottom yesterday, haven't scored, came off the back of a 5-1 thrashing at Palace, who we beat the week prior. How are we not severely putting them to the sword? It was 3 points, but for me, the performance was nowhere near good enough again, and we have some problems in midfield for me.
Yep. Anyone who missed the match earlier on today, Sheffield United struggles continue. They were beaten comprehensively at Southampton by 3-0, and in the game that's kicked off now, it's Palace 0, Spurs 0. Tom Dixon asks, should Dwight Gayle be given another contract at Newcastle, Daz?
Yeah, that's a question that I think he talked about yesterday as well. I think, and I agree with what Richie said yesterday about if he could extend it for 12 months, if he'd accept something like that. Yeah, that's what I do. I wouldn't be giving him a long-term contract, no. Especially when we don't know what's happening as well. Like, is the dreaded T word happening? Going to happen soon or whatever? So I wouldn't give him any decent length on it. If we could extend it by 12 months, all the better. Just come back on what the lads said. Like the guys probably have a different, because I was just watching it on my own yesterday while the young lad was asleep. But here he is. Hey Chris.
Back.
But no, I agree with what the lads were saying about the midfield was shocking. I thought that the two fullbacks weren't great either. Their crossing was very poor, and I was calling to bring on Murphy because instead of Kraft at one stage, and yeah, I think Lewis now needs to take a break as well. We have Richie back. Give Richie a run at left back position or something like that. But I can see how we're not happy with the performance. We were playing West Brom. I wasn't expecting us to get a hatful of goals. I'm happy with the win. But yeah, for me, we're all towards the bottom of towards the bottom of the table team. So I'm just happy to pick up points in those 6-pointer games, no matter what means necessary. So that's why I'm happy. I'm on the positive side of things rather than the negatives as the lads are coming across.
Yeah, Ben Willett says, our football's awful, but I think we have to accept the situation as it is. Bruce won't be sacked while we are mid-table, and we need to stay at Premier League for any hope of a takeover. Short-term pain for long-term gain.
Sorry, Steve, just one more point. I just want to promote a new channel that has come on. It's Chris's walking tours. So, yeah, mask up, and off we go. Coming live to your living room. Yeah. Sorry, that's my little plug for Chris's channel.
It was a cross between, as we said yesterday, Annika Rice and Mission Impossible. I've never seen anything quite as funny at times. His attempt to get Wembley in as he was approaching Wembley Station was a classic. So even if you just fast forward through yesterday's Matchday Live against West Bromwich Albion, you will see Chris in various locations, hot footing it across London, Uxbridge, Tower Hamlets, you name it, to get home, all in the name of being on the podcast, which I thought was a great effort by Chris, and gave us a lot of humour yesterday anyway. We'll come to you in a second, Chris. Martin, Dwight Gayle, Tom Dixon's question was simple. Would you give him a new contract?
Yeah, we spoke on this yesterday. I would, but maybe a 12-month, like Daz says, if he would take something maybe on a 1-year extension, maybe on slightly reduced wages. Yeah, and until anything happens credibly with the takeover or anything else, we're not in a position. I think it'll be loans in January. Will he go out? Will Bruce go out? Will we get a hold of another loan striker? I don't know. So I think at the minute we need him. Longer term, I agree with the lads yesterday. He's not the longer term answer, but I think short term, where we are now, I think Gayle gives us something that we can't afford to lose at the moment. We've no backup to Wilson. Carroll's certainly not going to. So. I think we need to look at something. Whether he'll take it or not, I think is a different story.
Okay, Chris, Dwight Gayle, would you give him a new contract?
I'm one of those guys that thinks that the takeover is going to happen. So with no takeover, sure, but mostly I've seen with flashes of brilliance in the Premier League. He's been more solidly a top championship performer. So he wouldn't be on our squad sort of continuing forward after new money is injected. But for now, yeah, I mean, I'm sort of on the fence here. But I'm inclined to say, if the lad produces, then why not?
Okay, Pete, are you on the Dwight Gayle fan club? Would you give him a new contract, or is that just going a little bit too far?
Me and Martin spoke about it on the Match Day Live yesterday, and I'm of the mindset of I wouldn't give him a long-term contract. I just wouldn't. He hasn't earned it. Being honest, he hasn't earned a new contract with us. Look, he scored goals for us mostly in the Championship, but his injuries are far too often and far too long. And he's not a player that we can depend on. We talked about the Andy Carroll situation where he's barely kicked the ball, or he's looked unfit, or he's constantly pulling up. Dwight Gayle was the same. And I'm sick and tired of having those types of players in our squad. You look at the left back situation with Paul Dummett. He's not played for nearly a year now. And we can't keep having players in the squad on big wages, or big in terms of what we offer anyway. And then these players sitting on the sideline. So personally, I wouldn't. He's certainly got to really show his fitness for the rest of the season and score goals. That's going to be crucial for him. At the very most, I'd be with Daz and Martin and give him an extended contract for a year on reduced wages.
Yes.
We've got to remember he's on big wages now because of the Solomon Rondon deal, where he signed an extension in order to leave to go to West Bromwich Albion. He's on big wages, and it's not just someone you can say, "Oh yeah, give him another contract," because look, ultimately he's not going to start. He's not going to be first choice. Callum Wilson, when fit, is first choice, but you don't want to be paying a second choice striker crazy wages for him to be sitting on the sidelines when you can probably go out and get someone younger or someone that's certainly a lot fitter that's going to be playing regular, who's going to be an alternative option. So, yeah, like I say, I wouldn't give him a long-term contract, but he's got it all to play for. I think any contract he take with us, let's be honest, I don't think he's going to get a bigger club than Newcastle if he leaves us. So I think a reduced wages and an extension of a year, I think he'd take that. I think he'd snap it up. But anything longer than that, I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah, there's no doubt Al Walid, he's in good goal scoring form. I know he's been out for a while with injury, but prior to his injury, back end of last season, he was putting the ball in the back of the net, and he did it again yesterday.
If Newcastle will not contract him, I will try to recommend him to my club in Saudi Arabia. For me, he's a great player. Kind of a player, he's quite standard, steady performance, great in positioning himself in the 18 box. But regarding injuries, that's I don't know. I'm not really. I don't know about the injuries. He usually get injured, but I see also when he play next to Wilson get more free. I think best performance of Wilson last night when Gayle was in the field. For me, he's a saver. I think he saved us many times. For me, I would like to see him in Newcastle. Continue in Newcastle.
Okay, the guys in the private chat are wondering if you're moonlighting. Are you in Costa today instead of Starbucks?
No, it's a different section in the coffee.
It's a different section of the coffee. Brilliant. It's an ongoing joke, folks. We often see Al Walid with Starbucks behind him. He's changed his venue again twice in a row now. He's moving around. He's getting as bad as Chris. Saudi tours. Chris's tours Saudi branch.
I'm still waiting this guy to finish his order, so he's still...
All right, good stuff. There's a great post here from Barry. I'm going to read this out. This is an interesting avenue to go down. Read an interesting article about Steve Bruce. Alex said that Bruce was the type of player who, even when injured, would continue to play for you. Do you think that's why you expect our players to do it? Daz, we've seen a lot made of Steve Bruce's comments in recent weeks about run it off. A lot of people were joking about the COVID virus hitting Newcastle, saying that Steve Bruce just expected people to run it off. Of course, that was tongue-in-cheek. But yeah, I mean, is it that kind of, I don't know, 1980s player mentality? You know what I mean? Like, drink hard, play hard, and you get a bust nose. Well, I've had plenty bust noses. Get on with it. You know what I mean? And if a hamstring, that'll be okay. Run it off. Is it that kind of mentality? Do you think that's the reason that Steve Bruce has so many injuries?
So the question is, do I think Steve Bruce is a dinosaur? Yes, is the answer. Yeah, no, he is old school. Look at he come from the Alex Ferguson days. Like a lot of managers came through that line, let's say. But yeah, that would be his thinking. Yeah, I can't see him adopting the newer styles, let's say. But that's his thing. We know what to expect. Like. I just hope that he doesn't break our players before they should. Yeah, I think he will just adopt the old school mentality, and that's just Steve Bruce.
Yeah, okay. Martin, what do you think of that? Steve Bruce, obviously, Alex Ferguson was his manager for many, many years, and essentially just, the whole run-it-off theory would probably add up if that's what he used to do, play through the pain barrier.
Yeah, I think Daz is right. I think it's to be fair, when Bruce played, it was a different era. Football is nowadays, it's completely different. It's a different game. We spoke, a few times going back when we spoke about, we started to get these little niggly injuries again in Newcastle, and, we were getting hamstrings and strains and stuff. And I questioned the medical team, said, one of the things that, Rafa did cure when he got into Newcastle was, all the managers that seemed to come before the medical team that was at NUFC, we seemed to keep getting these little niggles and everything else. And Rafa seemed to put that right. We've kind of slipped a little bit back, but I think back, obviously when Bruce played, him and Pallister, the centre pair for Man United, they were a great central defence. Bruce, I've seen, getting the bandage around the old Terry Butcher piece with, blood gushing. Like, those days are gone, really. You get a head injury now, you're off, and, the medical teams are just a different thing. So I think whilst he might expect lads to maybe run off a knock or try and run it off, I think with the way that footballers are now, I think it's a different game completely. And I think as professionals, the medical side of the game has changed. And I think that those, while you might want it, I don't think it's a reality. Me personally, I think you need to, treat the injury, take a player off if there's any doubt or concern, and, get them right. I think it just risks longer term injury. So I think where we might gain for half a game, we might lose a Wilson again for another 6 games. So I don't see the point.
Okay, yeah, Al Walid, there's a lot of concern about Steve Bruce's injury run since he came to the club, but that would probably make sense, what Alex Ferguson has said, where, he would play through the pain barrier. Maybe that's what he's just, expecting from his players that he manages.
Maybe that's true, one of the reasons. I remember I used to be helping a basketball coach in Saudi Arabia wheelchair basketball team, and I had some players get injured or his stamina not very well. So because I know sometimes the injury of the player or his stamina, I just talked to the coach. I said, this player, I don't think he can to continue the game. He always tried to shut me down, and he said, no, don't talk to me about this. I know better. Later on, when I spent many years with him, I noticed the reason he doesn't two things. I noticed he doesn't like to change much in the game during the game unless he have to. Second thing, I hope it's not this reason. He's not have a trust on the player on the bench. I was with him like 4 years. This is the two reasons I find out. So maybe he doesn't like to change much, or he have no trust at the moment on the player on the bench. Just opinion.
Okay, good stuff. Chris, welcome back, mate. I know you haven't been too well. Good to see you back on the back on the show and back on the podcast. And I bet it's a happy household in Liverpool with Everton beating Chelsea yesterday, and the missus will be dancing round the dinner table.
Yeah, she was absolutely made up, Steve, and obviously I'm happy as well. We got our 3 points, which is fantastic, and then we watched the Joshua fight last night, and obviously he won.
Good
so
fight, wasn't it? Yeah, I haven't even talked about that. I mean, it was
really
well worth watching. Really good. Managed to get a feed as well, which was even better. So, because I always begrudge when paying that kind of money for that kind of fight, and usually it's all over in seconds. But yeah, I predicted a 6th round knockout. I wasn't far off, but I didn't have any money on it. But it was good. Yeah, enjoyed it. It was a good fight, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it was really good. Yeah, I think we're all waiting for the Fury fight, aren't we? Obviously, I've got my own opinion on that, but yeah, it should be a really good fight. But hopefully, the sooner the fans are back in the stadium, I think we'll push towards that fight happening. I think everyone's been putting it off, but I think that's going to be the big fight next year. Yeah,
me too, mate. Me too. And at the moment, I can't see past Fury. Getting to football though, Newcastle, great win. We're talking about a little bit about that. Obviously, you've joined us slightly late, so just give us your opinion on the match. And Dwight Gayle, would you give him a new contract?
Yeah, it's a tough one, that, isn't it? So the match yesterday, great start. What was it, 25 seconds in? So yeah, that was fantastic. Yeah, Miggy, superb. And as you said yesterday, and I know a few of the other lads mentioned because I was watching. Big credit to Joe Linton because that through ball was fantastic. Really, showed his awareness, and he's really picking up now. So let's hope he can continue that. We've got Leeds midweek, haven't we? And then Fulham at the weekend. So yeah, let's hope he can continue with that. Obviously, West Brom were creeping back into it, and I was particularly frustrated because I put a message out to yourselves while you were all on, saying I was frustrated watching Bilic because Bilic saw the problem, made the changed the formation, and then West Brom were all over us early in the second half. They got their equaliser. Annoyingly, Jamal Lewis was ball watching, but it is what it is. But yeah, fair play to the lads for coming back, and fair play to Bruce as well. The 2 subs that he made the difference. Murphy coming on and Gayle. In terms of Gayle, I think I've said it before. I think we need to give him a new deal. I'd personally look to give him maybe a 2-year deal, but I'd ask him to drop his wages. I'd maybe say to him, we'll give you 2 years if you drop your wages. That way, we still keep the value of the player. If we move him on, great. I don't see the value in giving him a year deal personally, because I think he will just say, well, I want to keep my terms, and we won't get any monetary resale from him. I think, how old is Gayle now? He must be early 30s. So yeah, we probably wouldn't get much off him anyway, but yeah, fair play 31. To him yesterday. 31, yeah, fair play to him yesterday. I think it was his second chance because he had a header which was cleared off the line. And for such a small lad, we did really well with that header. Really good. So yeah, I'd give Gayle a new contract.
Yep. Okay. Chris, other thing we're talking about today, before we come to your namesake, is Steve Bruce. There was a comment from Barry who said that Alex Ferguson had mentioned, it must have been either on an interview or in his biography, that Steve Bruce was the kind of player who would run injuries off. And Barry was just thinking, is that the reason you think that he expects the players that he manages to do that? Chris Hall, that was to you, mate.
Yeah, Chris Hall.
Oh, sorry, I thought you moved on to the other place. Sorry.
No, to you, Chris.
Next to each other.
Sorry. I think, do you know what? based on what you've all been saying earlier, you know, there has been a change. Like, we've moved on in terms of how things were years ago. I noticed a couple of you said, you know, about those legendary pictures. You know, with players, you know, with bandages around the head. I automatically think of Shearer. You know, he played through some really, you know, tough injuries that he had on the pitch. Bruce, yeah, I mean, you only have to look at Bruce's face, don't you, to know he's been through a few battles, and you know, I think he was a battler, and I think he was somebody who would really, you know, go for it, and you know, he probably expects players nowadays to do the same, but I'm not sure that they would. Would they do it for Bruce? I don't know. He just strikes me as he likes to be one of the lads. So you'd hope that the players were behind him. I know a few weeks ago we questioned that. Again, I'm not really sure, you know, whether that is the case or not. But I think nowadays, I don't think you can expect players to play through things. I think, you know, medical science has come on loads more, and I think if there's any kind of worry or danger of players being further injured, and you know, I don't think that running off an injury anymore happens. So yeah, I think personally, as soon as someone gets an injury, they need to come straight off. I know Martin O'Neill, a lot of players said, you know, they'd run through walls for him, and that was the kind of manager that he was. I think even if Martin O'Neill was managing now, I don't believe that, you know, players would run through an injury. I mean, I know certain players get injections, and you know, they will put their bodies on the line. And the sad thing is, as much as I don't like saying it, you know, I don't believe that we're kind of in that position. You know, if we were in a Champions League quarter-final, would players put themselves on the line? Probably. You know, if we're mid-table in the Premier League, you know, against, I don't know, a West Brom or a West Ham, I don't think players will do it. I think they'll just say, oh, I've got a bit of a knock here, I can't play.
Yeah, interesting points to Barry's question. Big shout out to newworkwear.com, specialists in the supply and branding of clothing for the workplace, who sponsor our StreamYard application, and also a big shout out to qtechshop.co.uk, who make our merchandise, the t-shirts, which you can get at newcastlelegends.com. Got those rather snazzy NUFC Matters t-shirts, which I think Alwaleed is modelling, and the Supermac t-shirts are now on site, as well as the Supermac mugs. So if you're looking for last minute Christmas ideas, then pop on to newcastlelegends.com. We've also got the food bank calendars, which are available for $9.99, and all $9.99 goes to the food bank, which we popped up to this week, me and Steve Hasty, to hand over 500 quid from the Christmas do, which unfortunately couldn't go ahead, but which will go ahead in the new year. And a big thank you to everybody who left their money in. You can also catch up with us on iTunes and on Spotify if you're out and about and don't have time to sit and watch the YouTube channel. And all we ask is that you like, you comment, you share, and you subscribe to the channel. That will be very helpful to us. Chris, coming to you again. You've moved again. You love this moving around with the when you're live on the show. Yeah, Steve Bruce. Injuries. Lots of soft muscle injuries, etc. Is he asking people to play through the pain barrier? I mean, ASM, we talked about that on Matchday Live yesterday. You know, it feels to a lot of people maybe he's fell out with him. Was that because he was playing him and telling him to play through the, you know, through injury? I mean, you know, is there a bit of truth in what Alex Ferguson says?
Yeah, you know, I'm not quite sure how much managing Steve Bruce actually does. He seems to delegate the whole team management to his assistants, and he's just kind of there to put the hand around the arm around the shoulder. So, I mean, obviously he doesn't have a great record at most places he's been. And sort of an old dinosaur in terms of tactics and stuff. So I don't think he's evolved as a manager. And so I think there could be something there in terms of, this is how we've always done it. This is how I'm always going to do it. And players play my way or you don't play. So, you know, I don't have a background in physio or anything like that, but it's certainly possible that his sort of laissez-faire attitude in terms of play through the pain is not what the modern game in 2020 requires. And just one other way, and that Steve Bruce is just sort of the game has passed him by.
Yeah, I agree. 1-0 to Spurs, and it's that man again, Harry Kane, as he takes another step towards Alan Shearer's all-time Premier League record. I always cringe when I see Harry Kane scored. I'm not looking forward to that day at all. Pete, Steve Bruce injuries. Is there any truth in what Alex Ferguson has said? Do you think?
I think Baz put it perfectly when he referred to Steve Bruce as a dinosaur, because he is a dinosaur. He's just one of those managers, and there's a few still out there that are just not capable of moving on in the modern game. We're not in the 90s anymore. You cannot expect players to play through serious pain and at the level required at Premier League level now. The game's moved on. It's so much quicker. It's so much more intense. There's so much more demand on players physically nowadays than there were back then. From whether it's a pace aspect or just a fitness aspect, that you can't get away with playing at 50%. But Bruce hasn't moved on with those times, and he's still expecting players to do that. I mean, you look at a more recent example is John Joe Shelby. John Joe Shelby is apparently playing with an injury, with some form of hernia, for weeks, and then it got to the point where he couldn't possibly play anymore, to the point where he had to have surgery. Now, why not try and protect the player and protect the player's sort of longevity by getting that done and dusted earlier, and he would have been back by now, or a lot sooner. That's just one example, and I'm sure there's others that we don't know about. And I think Martin talked about Rafa Benitez's record. We have very rarely had injuries. Very, very rarely had injuries. And before that, under Steve McLaren, we had a shed load of injuries. And it doesn't, it's not, you don't take a rocket science to work out that it's down to the manager's way of working. And Steve Bruce just hasn't moved with the times. And that's why we're in the situation where we're literally on eggshells, game in, game out. I mean, I have to be honest, every time St. Maximin runs with the ball at his feet with pace, I cringe, because I cringe at the worry that he's going to pull up with a hamstring again. And the same with Callum Wilson, the way he presses, the way he works off the ball, and he's constantly running. I worry that his hamstring is going to go, or he's going to pull up a really serious injury. Because Steve Bruce does not know how to manage players from a medical point of view. I'm not surprised that Steve Bruce was the way he was under Sir Alex Ferguson, because Sir Alex Ferguson had a special way with players. But I'm also not surprised that we've had the injury record that we've got under Steve Bruce, because, as I say, he is a dinosaur, and he doesn't know how to move with the times.
Yeah, I would agree. I think most of us agree on that point, 100%. Crowds back in the ground. Let's finish off on that, lads, because I've got a couple of shows to pre-record, and we'll have to finish this in about 10 minutes' time. But I think crowds going back in, I've had my say on it. I do find it a bit strange, only allowing 2,000 in these certain areas which are on the lower tiers. A few people in the chat are making the point that it's making it quite unfair the way they're doing it, i.e. putting them behind the goals, which of course, can affect, I suppose, certain players. Having crowds in some grounds but not in others is giving the home teams an unfair advantage, Daz.
Yeah. For me, it's all or nothing. I know there's the tier system in the UK, that certain clubs can have a certain number of fans back, and so on and so forth. But it's all or nothing. But for me, I think we covered it in another show. I wouldn't have any fans back at all, especially in the Premier League, because all the games are on TV anyway. And in UK is kind of a step ahead of most as well. They started rolling out the vaccine, so there's not too much longer to wait, you would imagine, before maybe it'll go into next season. But for this season, I wouldn't have fans back at all, and that's That's the kind of point I made the last day, and I'm sticking to that. So yeah, I don't really agree with it, and especially with clubs. Some clubs having fans back, and others not. That's an unfair advantage in the way I look at it as well.
Tom saying he hopes he's going to be in Tier 2 this week. Tom, I'm afraid it doesn't look good for us because I think the lump in the northeast all is one, and I don't think certain areas of the northeast have done as well as our area in Gateshead. So I genuinely feel that we'll remain in Tier 3. I can't see us coming out, unfortunately, mate. But non-league football will be back. I think we'll be able to attend the likes of Dunstan again. So hopefully see you down there, Tom. Yeah, I mean, fans back at football grounds, Martin. We all want to see it. I know that people like David Moyes, for example, have been very pleased to see fans back. But there is like is a slight disadvantage when a lot of the teams are just putting the fans in the goal, like behind the goals, and it's obviously going to cause an unfair advantage, I suppose.
Yeah, like I mean, I've got the Palace and Spurs game here, and there's fans either end of the Palace ground behind both goals. But watching it now, I haven't got the sound up, but I don't think having 2,000 back has actually done anything to raise the atmosphere or do anything else. And obviously London, got stuck into Tier 2 while the North East was lumped into Tier 3. So I agree with Daz. My piece was about the lower league teams having fans back in, and I know you can say, well, what's the difference between a Premiership team? But there's obviously a massive difference in the funding and the money that these teams have. So for me, the lower league teams, your Dunstans, unfortunately your Division 3 teams like Sunderland and other ones that they need fans in the ground to generate money. I think is where I would have liked to have seen fans, but I think I agree with Daz. I think it needs to be all or nothing. I think the allocation of it, the way that they've got the fans. I mean, look at the Palace ground there. I mean, it's so scarce. Like, what's the point really? I don't. If I was a Palace season ticket holder, I'd want to know either I was going or I wasn't going. I wouldn't want to be not knowing if I could or couldn't. So I think it should have been nothing for this season. I think we should have just played out and gone for everything once it was done and clear. So yeah, agree with Daz on that one.
Yeah, okay. Al-Walid, you'll have seen on the coverage of the football in England that there are fans back in some of the grounds. I mean, what's your view on it? Does it give teams a bit of an advantage having some of their supporters in, do you think?
Maybe just better than nothing. And it's like gradual preparation for a gradual return, step by step. I want if you compare all activities around the world, nothing for now is forbidden. You can go now everywhere, just maybe traveling. I think the issue with traveling. So to wait until the vaccine, still for me, no exact answer for this, but I won't mind getting back to because some fans are eager the most to go to the stadium, so maybe this is the one who will they deserve to go there and get a chance for a gradual return to the games.
Yep. Okay, Chris, what's your view? There was fans down at Everton's game. I saw that, and I mean, great result for Everton. I mean, did the fans play their part?
I'm with those that say we shouldn't have any fans until it's sorted out. I don't want to keep putting people in tiers and privileges and separating one class from another. It just kind of reeks of, I don't know, privilege or something. So yeah, I mean, I think once it's all sorted out, we'll sort of put it in the rearview mirror and say, remember those years when there was no fans in the stands. But for the public health, public good, better off to have a return to full stadiums when everyone can be vaccinated, and whether that's a year away or not, I think it's worth the wait.
Okay, Chris Hall.
I'm probably gonna disagree with everyone here on this actually, because having watched the Everton game yesterday, I do actually believe. I know there was only 2,000 fans there, but I do actually believe that has made a difference, and I like the idea of the home, the home team having some fans in the stadium. Now, albeit I know there's only 2,000, and really, as a spectator watching it on the television, you won't really see the difference as such. But I think in terms of a player, you know yourself, if you can hear someone, shouting at you and saying "come on" and all stuff like that, I think it does make a difference, and I firmly believe Everton wouldn't have hung on yesterday without some of their fans being in the stadium. I firmly believe that. I think Chelsea, Chelsea struggled last night, and Everton took advantage of the fact they had some fans in the stadium at the very start of this. I think it was Norwich who had some fans, behind closed doors, like in the exec boxes. I didn't agree with that. I thought that was really pointless, but I suppose it's hopefully the start of something, where they start to allow more and more fans in. So you've got to start somewhere, and I do like the idea of some fans being there. I think it's harsh on how they pick the fans and stuff like that. I think obviously that's that's difficult, and I'm not a season ticket holder myself at St James's, so I appreciate it's much harder for people who are. And I do really sympathise with people, especially the ones who don't get picked. But I do think in terms of the home team advantage, I think it's nice to have some fans there, and it does really bring back that home advantage, because I think a few weeks ago, it didn't particularly make much difference whether we were playing at St James's or whether we were playing at Selhurst Park. It just didn't think there was much difference. So it's nice for some fans to be back in the stadium.
I was speaking to somebody who's a corporate box holder at St James's Park, and the club did make a bit of a faux pas last week. They advertised tickets for the Fulham game at St James's Park had gone on sale, and apparently 500 will go to corporate box holders and 1,500 will go to those in the stadium. It was quickly removed from the website because it was a mistake, and emails were and cash was returned, and emails were sent to say that this was a mistake. But it gives you an idea of where we're going with this. If Newcastle do allow people in, 2,000 fans, 1,500 will be ordinary fans, if you like, and 500 will be corporate fans. And that just gives you an idea of where we're at. And I think it was something like £115 a ticket for the corporate for that game, which is rather extreme. I'm not sure what those people pay on a regular basis, but in COVID times and the match day experience is going to be a lot different. I think maybe anything over £100 is still rather extreme even for the box. But Pete, come to you finally on this. Fans back in the ground, 2,000 supporters. Does it really make any difference to those on the pitch?
I think it does. I agree with Chris. I think it has. It gives them the advantage, because there's been a lot of talk since the restart about home fans not having an advantage because there's no fans there. So I think having the fans back in the stadium, it's giving them a little bit of an advantage. I don't like the fact that if you're in Tier 3 that there's not. Obviously, we're up north with yourselves. There's no fans allowed in St James's. There wasn't yesterday. And obviously, me being in Leicester, we're the same. We're in Tier 3 as well. I think we've been side by side in Tier 3 the whole time. So, and obviously Leicester fans are not having any fans back in their stadium either. So I don't find that's fair. I think what they should have done is in Tier 3 they should have still been allowed some fans back in, but less than the Tier 2 areas of the country. They should have more fans in. But I think some fans would even it out at least a little bit. But I do think it has a benefit, and I just don't like the fact that, for example, we played West Brom yesterday and we weren't allowed any fans in the stadium, but yet we've got Palace again today. I've got fans in Everton, like Chris talked about. I've got fans in. So some home teams are benefiting from this and having fans for them to get behind their players, and yet we're not. I don't find that that's fair. It needs to be either all of us benefit from it, or none of us do. That's for me how it should be. I just find it baffling that they're allowing some fans in and some not based on the tier system. There's no reason why they couldn't have said, right, well, we'll let 3,000 fans in, for example, and anyone in tier 3, tier 2, and maybe 1,500 for fans in tier 3, and then if you're in tier 1 in some areas of the country, you have a little bit more, and then it develops from there. There's no reason why that couldn't have happened. At least then all fans are allowed to access their clubs and be allowed back into the stadiums at some point.
Yep. Okay. Good points. Well made, lads. As always, great to spend a bit of time with you. I'm back tomorrow with Ladies' Night. It will be a pre-record as I am actually working tomorrow and will be unavailable to do a live. But the show will be pre-recorded today and we will be out tomorrow. If anybody wants to book onto Chris's walking tours, give @DazShocks a shout. There he is, masked up with his logo once again. And don't forget, think before you tweet. It's very important. It's our social media campaign that we're running all through December. Just if you're going to tweet something or if you're going to send somebody a message on social media, please just think about the person that you're sending it to. Give it a little bit of time and thought, because people might have had a bad day, and if you're sending them some abuse, then you shouldn't really be doing that. Just think before you tweet. That's the message we're sending out. But from me, from Daz, from Martin, from Al Walid, from the two Chris's, and from Pete, thanks very much for watching, and we will see you again soon. Take care.
Cheers, guys. Take care.